Am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you wish to dismantle the one Jewish state in the world in order to erect an anti-progressive, fascist state in its place, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you tear down random flyers of innocent Jewish men, women, children, and baby hostages that Jews simply wish to return back home to their families, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you shout hyperbolic, misused phrases like genocidal and ethnic cleansing with venom in your voice as you describe Zionists, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you regularly support and advocate for marginalized groups who experience racism, but you have been utterly silent in your advocacy for the number one victims of hate crimes in America, Jews, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If the only Jews you associate with, tokenize, and ally yourself with are fringe Jews that just happen to support your own cause, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you do not live in a Jewish community and do not actively participate in normative Jewish communal life, yet you seem to mainly use your Jewish identity to support those who spew vitriol against your own people, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you live in a colonized land and you are advocating for peoples who have colonized the whole region in the Levant and North Africa, and you are advocating for them on the basis that Jews are the supposed colonizers because they're living in their ancestral homeland, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If over 11 million Muslims have been killed since 1948 in wars, and only 0.01% has been due to conflicts with Israel, but yet the only country you constantly post about on social media is the one Jewish state in the entire world, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you hear about Hamas soldiers and some Gazan civilians going from house to house, raping women in front of their children, decapitating babies, and burning families alive, and your response is to debate exactly how many babies were decapitated versus murdered in another fashion, am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? If you attempt to draw moral equivalencies between Hamas atrocities on October 7th that they GoPro live streamed with pride and what Israel has done, a military response on legitimate military targets that as a collateral consequence, unfortunately, happens to kill civilians because Hamas uses human shields and tells its citizens to ignore all of Israel's warnings that Israel issues via knocks on roofs, leaflets, text messages, calls, and humanitarian escape corridors, then am I wrong if I may think you're anti-Semitic? If you advocate for a ceasefire in this current war when a truly genocidal regime, whose founding charter, by the way, cites a pre-1948, 1400 years old hadith to call for the murder of Jews as a religious duty, and this regime just broke a ceasefire to slaughter over 1,200 Jews and vows to do it over and over again until the Jewish state ceases to exist. Am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? Am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? For thousands of years, societies all over the world have picked whatever reason they could to justify persecuting Jews. And people in these societies have articulated their persecution of Jews as being a morally necessary form of social justice. So now, right after the most horrific attack against Jews since the Holocaust, you focus your energy on relentlessly maligning through specious reasoning the one Jewish state in the world. And this just happens to correlate with an over 300% rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes. Am I wrong to think that you may be anti-Semitic? Am I?